Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. DeWitt initiates the conversation, and the phonetic Amharic transcript reads, Endemen aderu, zero almaz, dena aderu.
And the English translation provided for that is, good morning, Mrs. Almaz. Did you sleep well?
Right.
What's fascinating here is the structural mechanism of the greeting itself. Like, Y0 means Mrs., which establishes this immediate respect. But Endemen aderu does not directly translate to the generic sort of throwaway good morning we use in the West.
Yeah, it literally carries the weight of asking how the person passed the night. It is an active inquiry into their physical well-being.
Exactly.
Which is so different from the West, where a greeting like good morning is essentially, it's a throat-clearing exercise.
Yeah, a punctuation mark before you demand a service.
Right. But you're saying in Amharic, the inquiry into your rest is actually the primary transaction.
Yes. In Ethiopian social structures, communal well-being takes precedence over individual speed. You just cannot bypass the human standing in front of you to get to the business at hand.
Which totally challenges how we define efficiency.
Right.
Because if I picture checking into, say, a major airport hotel in London or New York, the ideal scenario for a business traveler is minimizing human contact.
Oh, absolutely. You just want to get to your room.
Right. You tap your phone, you mumble your room number, the person behind the desk slides a key card without even making eye contact, and you grab a wrapped muffin. We call that efficient. It saves time.
Sure.
So if I'm learning Amharic to travel, is it safe to assume that taking the extra 10 seconds to ask about someone's rest is just as important as knowing the actual vocabulary words?
Oh, 100%. Because it means they define efficiency differently. A Western system views friction as a negative, like anything that slows down the transfer of goods or information is bad. But the Ethiopian system views the lack of human connection as a system failure. Think of the greeting as an essential handshake protocol in a computer network.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. You cannot send the data packet the room number without first completing the handshake to establish a secure connection. If you bark out your room number without establishing shared humanity, you are speaking the wrong cultural language.
Even if your Amharic vocabulary is flawless.
Exactly. And DeWitt and Almaz complete that social handshake beautifully. She replies, Endeminadirk, DeWitt. Owo, betamdina aderealihu, amasegnalehu.
Meaning, good morning, DeWitt. Yes, thank you. I slept very well.
Right. And only after this protocol is complete do they transition to logistics. DeWitt asks for her keyfill, or room number.
She says keyfill 302, and he confirms that her breakfast is included with her stay.
So the social bond is secure, the logistics are handled, and now Almaz notes she is very hungry.
Which is the most important part of the morning. DeWitt points her toward the buffet by the large windows, and she asks the crucial question, what kind of food do you have today?
And this is where the transcript gives us a masterclass in the mechanics of culture intersecting with cuisine.
Yeah, let's look at the specific spread DeWitt lists. He says they have injera with furfur, chichubsa, enkwal, which is scrambled eggs, ayib, which is cheese, and fresh fruit.
We really need to look at the mechanics of this menu, starting with injera with furfur, pronounced furfur.
Right, because injera is essentially the foundational element of Ethiopian cuisine. It's a large, spongy flatbread.
But to understand its significance, you really have to look at how it's engineered. It's made from teff, which is this ancient, highly nutritious grain that thrives almost exclusively in the specific high-altitude climate of the Ethiopian highlands.
And the fermentation process for teff is what gives it that distinct, slightly sour tang, correct? It's not just mixed and baked like a standard wheat bread.
Exactly. The teff batter ferments for days, actually capturing wild yeast from the air. When it's finally poured onto a large circular griddle called a mitad, the batter bubbles up,
creating that highly porous texture.
Right. And those pores are mechanically necessary because injera acts as your physical utensil. You tear off a piece and use it to scoop up stews and sauces.
Which brings us to furfur. DeWitt mentions injera with furfur.
Yeah, furfur is a dish where leftover torn pieces of injera are soaked in a rich, spiced stew, usually based on Berber spice.
Wow.
So practically speaking, you're using fresh injera to scoop up sauce-soaked injera. It's incredibly comforting and deeply traditional.
And then he mentions chichepsa.
Another absolute staple. Instead of the spongy injera, chichepsa starts with a lightly fried flatbread called kita. It's torn into bite-sized pieces and then coated with niter kiba.
Which is a type of butter, right?
Yeah, it's a clarified butter heavily infused with spices like cardamom, fenugreek, and cumin, and then mixed with that fiery Berber spice blend.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the juxtaposition on this buffet line. Right next to the chichepsa, it mentions they have inkwell scrambled eggs and ayab, a mild, crumbly local cheese. Then he moves to drinks Ethiopian coffee, tea, orange juice, and hot chocolate. We have centuries-old fermented teff dishes sitting in the exact same chafing dish lineup as hot chocolate and scrambled eggs.
And that juxtaposition is not an accident of catering.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a direct physical manifestation of Addis Ababa's geopolitical reality.
Because Addis Ababa is frequently referred to as the political capital of Africa.
Yes, it hosts the headquarters of the African Union, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, and it has one of the highest concentrations of foreign embassies in the world.
Oh, wow.
So the hospitality infrastructure in Addis Ababa has to constantly balance catering to the global diplomat who, expects a standard continental breakfast with maintaining its own incredibly rich culinary heritage.
So a standard hotel buffet basically acts as a cultural bridge. And learning this specific food vocabulary is like being handed a VIP backstage pass to a culture.
100%. Anyone can walk up to a buffet and point at the scrambled eggs.
Right. But knowing the word for the local yogurt, which Alma specifically asks for, ergo, and confidently requesting chichebsa gives you access to a deeper level of interaction.
She makes a very definitive choice. She asks, chichebsa nyos ekalelehu. Can I take some chichebsa? By opting for the complex traditional dishes over the safe international ones, she is signaling to DeWitt that she isn't just an outsider consuming resources.
She is actively participating in their heritage.
Yes. It fundamentally changes the dynamic. You move from being a passive tourist to an active participant.
I love that. So Almaz has her plate loaded with spicy chichebsa and cool ergo yogurt, and she obviously needs a place to sit. DeWitt tells her the tables are free. She replies, then I'll take the table by the window. I love the morning sunlight over Kazanchis.
And mentioning Kazanchis by name grounds this entire interaction in a very specific physical space. It's one of the oldest, most vibrant neighborhoods in Addis Ababa.
Its history is fascinating, too. The architecture and layout were heavily influenced during the brief Italian occupation in the 1930s. The name Kazanchis is actually derived from Case in CFIS, an Italian acronym for a housing institute that built residences for civil servants there.
Yeah, and today it is famous for its pulsing nightlife, traditional music houses known as Mari Betts, and just this bustling daytime energy.
Right.
So when Almaz talks about the morning sunlight over Kazanchis, she is evoking the image of a neighborhood waking up, cafes opening, and the light hitting both the historic corrugated roofs and the newer developments.
It paints such a clear picture, but right after she chooses her table, we hit the massive anomaly we discussed at the very beginning of the deep dive.
Ah, yes, the schedule.
Right. Almaz asks, what time is breakfast served until? And DeWitt replies, "Esequatuarat seatikoyal." Our English transcript explicitly translates this as until 10:00 a.m., so you still have plenty of time.
But let's look closely at the phonetic Amharic. Arat means 4. Siat means hour or o'clock. It literally said 4 o'clock in the morning.
And this is where my brain just short circuits. How does the mechanism of a clock turn 4 o'clock into 10 a.m.? If I translate those words literally without understanding the underlying system, I am going to miss breakfast entirely.
Oh, you definitely would. This raises an important question about the conceptual leap required when engaging with Ethiopian culture. The translation of words is secondary to the translation of reality.
Okay, walk me through this.
Ethiopia uses a 12-hour clock system that is fundamentally anchored to the solar cycle, not an arbitrary mechanical deadline.
How does that map onto the Western clock we're used to?
Well, it relies on geography. Ethiopia is located close to the equator, which means the daylight hours remain relatively consistent year-round, unlike in the northern or southern hemispheres.
Right, there are no extreme summer or winter days.
Exactly. The sun predictably rises around 6:00 a.m. Western Time and sets roughly around 6:00 p.m. Western Time. The Ethiopian clock simply recognizes sunrise as the beginning of the day.
So sunrise, which my watch calls 6:00 a.m., is basically hour zero.
Exactly. 1 hour after sunrise, which is 7:00 a.m. Western Time, is 1 o'clock Ethiopian Time, or Ansiad. 2 hours after sunrise, 8 a.m., is 2 o'clock.
Which means 4 hours after sunrise, 4 o'clock, Erat Siat is exactly 10:00 a.m.
Yes.
That is when the buffet closes.
To navigate Addis Ababa, you have to perform a constant underlying time zone calculation in your head, shifting everything by 6 hours. If an Ethiopian colleague tells you to meet for lunch at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Siat, they mean exactly noon in Western Time. 6 hours after the sun came up.
That requires an entirely different internal clock. It's an infrastructural difference in how time is perceived, agreed upon, and communicated.
And the reverse happens at night. Sunset, roughly 6:00 p.m. Western time, marks the start of the 12-hour night cycle. So 7:00 p.m. is 1 o'clock at night.
It is so brilliant in its logic. It forces you to constantly anchor your schedule to the physical reality of the planet's rotation rather than, ignoring the outside world in favor of a digital screen on your wrist.
Yeah, you're deeply connected to the environment. And Dawit and Almaz wrap up their morning exchange with exactly this kind of harmony. Dawit wishes her, "Melkom yemejibisilagot," enjoy your meal, and "Melkom kenyu hunawold," have a nice day.
And Almaz replies, "Amisegnali hu Dawit leantem melakamken." Thank you, Dawit. Have a great day, too.
It's a standard interaction, but it contains so much density when you look at the mechanics beneath the words.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean for you as a listener? If you really want to understand a place, skipping the generic textbook phrases is essential. Look at the practical transcripts of daily life.
They hold the actual rhythm of the culture.
Exactly. A simple hotel check-in demonstrates that communal well-being and social connection must precede logistical transactions. A buffet line reveals a city's geopolitical history through the juxtaposition of ancient fermented teff and modern scrambled eggs.
And asking about the breakfast schedule forces you to recalibrate your relationship with time itself. And that is the crucial thread to pull here. Think about the mechanical decree of the Western clock. We dictate that a new day begins at midnight. It happens in the pitch black, while almost everyone is asleep, completely divorced from any observable natural phenomenon.
Yeah, it's an arbitrary mechanical decree designed for industrial consistency. We prioritize the machine's time over the Earth's time.
But if a culture anchors the start of every single day to the actual visible rising of the sun and the start of the night to the setting of the sun, how does that fundamentally alter their psychological relationship with nature?
Wow.
You're no longer just passing hours, You are tracking the literal light. Time is no longer just a rigid framework. It is a living environment. And once you recognize that, a simple conversation about breakfast becomes a masterclass in how to exist in the world.